Já é evidente a energia que se sente na sala. Chegou um dos momentos mais aguardados desta conferência. Todos os anos a conferência Connecting Healthcare convida um prémio Nobel. Este ano, naturalmente, não podia ser diferente. Já o vimos entrar e eu não sei se repararam, não sei se será a fé, como há pouco o cardeal disse, se será a magia, mas a última palavra do último slide do professor Carlos Filhais foi compaixão. E compaixão é o assunto que vai nortear a palestra que o Kailash Satyarthi vai partilhar connosco. Eu antes quero só lembrar-vos algum dos marcos da vida do nosso Prémio Nobel da Paz, que hoje faz questão de estar connosco. O ativismo mudou-lhe a vida quando ele tinha 26 anos e quando tudo indicava que ele seria um engenheiro promissor. Passou a dedicar-se integralmente à proteção das crianças indianas. Tem feito um trabalho incansável contra o tráfico infantil, contra a exploração sexual, contra as redes de tráfico de seres humanos. Foi isso que o levou a fundar o movimento Save the Childhood, que assenta num modelo de aldeias modelo. São locais onde as crianças encontram segurança para poder crescer e, acima de tudo, onde podem aprender, ter acesso ao ensino. Na Índia, isso está muito presente na cabeça das pessoas. Se calhar nós, no Ocidente, se nos despirmos da arrogância, como já aqui foi refrisado, também consigamos perceber isso de forma mais clara. O ensino é o melhor elevador para sermos efetivamente todos iguais e termos todos acesso ao mesmo. Através desta fundação, Save the Childhood, o nosso Prémio Nobel conseguiu tirar às garras da exploração 85 mil crianças que eram vítimas de esquemas, vítimas das redes de tráfico de crianças, e além de focar-se no trabalho junto destas crianças, o que ele também tem conseguido fazer é trabalhar nas comunidades onde elas se inserem e que essas comunidades sejam sustentáveis, não vivam depois apenas dos subsídios e consigam viver de forma independente. Depois de tanto trabalho, depois de tantos protestos pacíficos onde participou, o reconhecimento através do Prémio Nobel da Paz chegou em 2014. Vamos, ainda antes de dar as boas-vindas ao Kailash Satyarthi, ver um pequeno vídeo que mostra o trabalho que ele tem feito para percebermos o privilégio que será escutar as suas palavras.
The joys and freedom of millions of children started with just one feeling. What if the child slave Sabo was my daughter? Sabo, who was about to be sold to a brothel. Sabo, whose desperate father lay in a heap at my feet. Perhaps it all started with a spark of compassion and today become a worldwide movement. I believe that each one of us is born with two natural gifts: consciousness and compassion. Both are the core reasons of our being. When we feel the suffering of others as our own suffering, with a strong drive to take action, that is compassion. God is not so meager that He has blessed us with only a little of compassion, which we have confined to our families and friends. We need to go beyond that. All that is required is to enlarge our circle of compassion. A touch of compassion is what makes each of us a problem solver, an innovator who is ready to accept all challenges and solve them. When we work towards making our world a better place, each one of us becomes a compassionate leader. In fact, all world religions and movements were born out of compassion. I stand with 8 billion people because the world is my family. In this age of interconnectedness, are we really connected with each other? Compassion is the greatest form of connectedness and love. There is no curse bigger than being alone. Loneliness is frightening. If you are connected, you are fearless. And we are the safest if we feel like a part of our global family. We are the mothers of the children. I am not a teacher or a preacher of compassion. I have made it a way of life. I truly believe that every solution lies in compassion in action. So, my dear friends, as we globalize markets, resources, and data, I urge you all to globalize compassion. Sangachadvam samvadadvam samvo manansi janatam deva bhagam yatha purve sanjananam upasate. हम चलेंगे साथ साथ चले हाथों में हाथ हम चलेंगे साथ साथ एक दिन ओ मन में है विश्वास पूरा है विश्वास हम होंगे कामयाब एक दिन We shall overcome one day.
Mr. Kailash, welcome. We are eager to listen to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Please. You know that I'll talk here or here. As you wish. Yeah?
Não faz mal, não faz mal.
Thank you so much. I know that you must be quite exhausted since morning discussing on quite complex issues. But I just met Julia and hoping that she had demystified or simplified many of the complex issues of the brain. Is it true? I could not understand any Portuguese, but when my previous speaker was standing and again simplifying the complex subjects of science, you were quite comfortable, is it? Yes or no? Yeah. So I'm not going to talk on any complex subject. In fact, yesterday, when my wife, me, and my colleague came here, in fact, day before yesterday night, so Sergio and Daniel were quite, I won't say nervous, but very concerned because of the weather. They said that, sorry, we could not provide you a good shining sun, a clear weather. I did not say anything that day, but yesterday, when we were taking a short tour of Porto, I told that we are enjoying this rain and thank you for preparing this beautiful weather for us because we are coming from Delhi that has 48 degrees Celsius temperature. So thanks for providing me good weather yesterday, rain. But I don't want to keep your gift. Today my wife has said, let us give the return gift, the sun from India. So if you are enjoying this sunny weather, it is our return gift to you. Thank you. Obrigado. Yeah. I did not say bon dia before I came. This is a very, very important subject, or I would say the combination of several subjects. But the underlying message is evolution. Is it? We are all evolving in one way or other, biologically, physically, mentally, socially, spiritually, and so on. I will come back to yesterday's tour, and we were shown 5 big, beautiful bridges, 5 bridges in Porto. And the people are very proud of those bridges. And something was running in my mind. That world has created so many walls, one after other walls. Walls of nationalities, walls of languages, walls of cultures, walls of religions, walls of ideologies, political ideologies, so many walls. So we have invested enough bricks and mortar and cement in building those walls in 5,000 years or so. Would it not be better to break these walls and build bridges so that we can comfortably greet and meet and hug and love each other and make a family? I don't believe in walls. I believe in bridges, which my ancestors in India have taught me. World has never been so broken and divided as it is today. But world has never been so wealthy, wealthier, more knowledgeable, more connected virtually, technologically, than it is today. But what is a paradox? On one hand, we say that world is interconnected, interdependent. On the other hand, we know that world has never been so divided. And this divide is growing. Unfortunately, combination of greediness, power mongering, the backlog, or I would say the back in our minds, the conviction or trust or obsession for some of those historical conclusions which have been drawn by one does not know whether they are truly correct or not, but we live with that, and the world is getting more and more divided. Only a few minutes ago, I was asked a question that why it is so. And my answer was simple, that we lack a sense of moral responsibility towards each other. Our moral accountability for each other is diminishing, is shrinking. So our leadership keep on losing the moral compass, where to go and where to lead the nations and where to lead the world. That is missing somewhere. And why it is missing? Because there is a serious disconnect between who are supposed to solve the problems of the world and the people who are suffering with multiple problems, compounded crisis. Hunger, energy, unemployment, wars, insurgencies, inner conflicts, compounded crisis. How we can find the answer to it? When I say disconnect, when I say broken, means we originally believe in one thing, that sometime the world was connected and now because of some reasons it is getting disconnected, and that's why it is broken. What could be the fix? What could be the glue? What can unite us again? Maybe in our family life, maybe in our neighborhood, in our society, in our communities, in our countries, and also in the world. So I'm talking about compassion today. But don't be confused when I say compassion. I could not find a better word, so I use the compassion. Let me be honest to you. I'm not talking about sympathy or empathy, neither about kindness, benevolence, mercy, though they are all good human traits, sometimes moral values, social ethics, etc. When I talk of compassion, I am not a preacher or a teacher. I don't talk in the language of religions and faiths. Because I strongly believe that all religions in the world and all revolutions, all social transformation efforts were born out of the spark of compassion. When somebody had felt deeply the suffering of others as his or her own suffering, and acted with a strong drive to alleviate that suffering, the revolutions were born, religions were born. That was the history of evolution of all religions. Unfortunately, we lost that track. We forget that our birth came from that spark of compassion from someone. Compassion is innate. Here are some scientists, especially the brain scientists are sitting in front of me, so I cannot speak that language. But even then, whatever I studied to be equipped to learn, I am convinced that compassion is biological, it's neurological. The mother's relation with the child, even when the child comes in the belly of the mother, the perception changes, the worldview changes, the behavior changes, the concern for others changes, because something is happening in the brain perhaps. And the relationship continues as kin compassion. I call it kin compassion. Because mother does not want anything in return from the toddler. If the child is in danger, is injured, or something happens to him or her, the mother, whatever illiterate, ignorant, poor she is, she does every possible thing to protect her child. No desire of return, no ego, no aggression, no selfish interest. So in simple words, compassion is the deepest connection with the suffering of others that compels one to take urgent action to alleviate that suffering. And I can further simplify this, because Julia says that I told her that there are people who make the simple things very complicated, very complicated. Academicians, faith leaders, they create so many complex theories between the God and you, or God and me. It becomes very complicated to hug my God. And I feel that I live with my God. I need not to go anywhere to find it, because there are so many complexities, difficulties, barriers in between. So she told that the brain, the other part of the brain, and some people have that brain that can simplify the complex things into simple. So I tried to simplify compassion. Compassion is selfless problem solving. That's all. When you try to solve others' problem without any selfish interest, this is compassion. Think, did you ever solve others' problem? Your children's problem, your husband's problem, wife's problem? It's a difficult question between husband and wife, but when it comes to your parents or your siblings or your children, that is more simple. But I'm sure that each one of you had solved some problem or tried your best to alleviate the pain or suffering of someone else. Did you do it in your life? Yes or no?
Yes.
Raise your hands who did. Who loved your son or daughter, your father, your husband, your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your partner, without any expectation that she or he will return something. Is it? So, if you are already so compassionate, what am I doing here? Why did you invite me, Sergio? I am just knocking on your heart. I tell you that many of you don't believe in heart. You think that it is just a small muscle for pumping blood. But if it was not true, then I could have never been married to such a beautiful girl who is a lady and mother of two of our children, Sumedha, who is sitting here. That was not my brain. That was my heart. Of course, you can have interpretation of brain, but I believe in heart. And when I gave up my career as electrical engineer many years ago, I was born in a very modest family. My father was a policeman who passed away when I was a child. So my widow mother had to do every possible thing to educate 5 of her children. Actually, I was the one who was the youngest. And I wanted to become engineer, so my mother had to sell her ornaments and so on. But when I decided to give up this lucrative or one of the most lucrative jobs in my country, I was specialized in transformer designing, high voltage transformer design. My friends said, I've become mad. They were mocking at me. My mother was crying. But then I can say that I followed my passion. I followed my heart, thinking that my mind will follow me. So that was a tough decision almost 46 years ago, 47 years ago. I was teaching. I taught in the university for about 1.5 years before quitting my job. But what drove me, I think, right from my childhood, I could feel the suffering of other people as mine. In fact, the very first day of my schooling was the biggest lesson for me. It was an ordinary school. I was walking inside the school gate, and I saw a boy, cobbler boy, my age, who was sitting at the doorstep of the school. He was looking at me whether we can give him some job of shoe shining or shoe repairing. So I was looking at him, but he was looking at our feet. All the children were wearing new shoes or better shoes because that was the first day of school. I was disappointed. I felt very bad about it. So the first question I asked to my teacher in my class, "Sir, why a child is sitting outside the school gate and not with rest of us in the classroom?" He was surprised. He said, "Calm down, Kailash, this is your first day. Make friends, be familiar with the school." I was also 5.5-year-old. So when I came back, I still saw the boy sitting under the open sun in the afternoon. And second day and third day, every day I looked at the boy, and he was sometimes sitting alone and sometimes with his father. One day, I gathered all my courage and stopped while coming back from school and asked to this man and the boy. The boy was shy, but the man stood up with folded hands. And then he said, when I asked the same question, he said, "Sir, I never thought about it. My father, my grandfather, and I started going to work since we were children, repairing and polishing shoes. And so is my son," he said. And I could feel the pain, hopelessness, helplessness in his eyes. And he was standing with folded hands in front of me because of the Indian caste hierarchy, a kind of social apartheid that was more than 60 years ago. And then he said, "Sir, you guys are born to go to school, but we are born to work." It was his answer, but a question for me forever. It had given me a different perspective of life. That why some children are born to work at the cost of their childhood, education, freedom, and future. I started questioning my teacher's answer. The same answer has been given by my mother and other people, that yes, they are poor children, they have to go to work. If they don't work, they will starve, they will die. But I could not believe that. How I believed in God, I still believe in God. How can God be so unjust that He has given birth to some people to become untouchables, to work at the cost of their childhood? And for people like us, who have all the opportunities to grow, not possible. I did not hide behind the ready-made answers which were there in the books, holy books, textbooks, the books of wisdom. I started questioning that why? Perhaps this is the first step towards the evolution in personal life, social life, and the political life. If we try to hide behind the ready-made answers of all the questions in the world, how the science will grow, how the technology will grow, how the cultures and religions and civilizations will grow, full stop is the death. The life belongs to question. Evolution belongs to questions. And my today's big question is that, in spite of all the growth and advancement and everything which is available in the world, just $53 billion additional dollars in the world can ensure child protection in all low-income countries. Every single child can get education, health care, freedom, childhood, and protection out of this money. Not only that, all the newly born children and the mothers can get all protection out of this $53 billion. And how much is this money? This is less than 10 days of global military expenditure. World is not so poor. But as I said before, that the problem lies in the disconnect. Disconnect between the problem solvers and problem sufferers. And that's why we have to find that honest, genuine connection. And that is compassion. Compassion you need not to borrow from a temple or a mosque or a church. You need not to dig out the compassion from the Bible or Quran Sharif or Gita or whatever. Compassion is inside each one of us. We have to ignite that compassion. We have to globalize compassion. If we have to protect the world, listen to the children, listen to the innocent people. Every other day. Can't you hear the cry of those children who are being killed? Innocent children are being killed in Gaza. Can't you listen the cry of those children who have been innocent children and women and the pregnant mothers have been killed in Ukraine? What was their fault? Children have never responsible for war. These innocent women were never responsible for wars. We, the wise people, we, the learned people, we, the people in power, are responsible for all these atrocities, not the children. We have to think on it. Why can't we listen to those children who are making chocolates for us? I come across many children in Ivory Coast and Ghana and other places where I work. I work across 150, 60 countries for many years. And I sat with those children who had scars and injuries in their legs and hands while working in the cocoa bean fields. And when I asked them, how do you like chocolate? They say, sir, what is chocolate? We have never seen chocolate. Tonight, all of us, including me, would like to see, on my television at least, the football match. And I will definitely clap for Portugal. But, did you ever think that who stitches these footballs? Who make those 200, 300 items which are used in every single football match? I work with those children in Pakistan and other places where these girls and boys who stitch football have never had a dream to play with those footballs. Whose children are they? Whose children are being killed in Gaza and Ukraine? Whose children are suffering in South Sudan and Yemen and Syria and other places? Whose children are making products which we use comfortably without asking ourselves. My dear sisters and brothers, they are our children. They are your children. Your children. They are my children, I feel. And once you start feeling for them, this would be the beginning of globalization of compassion. Just feel to begin with. This feeling will give you answers. Compassion is the strongest power of transformation. It is not a tender, it is not a gentle, it is not a soft emotion. It's a strong feeling which generates tremendous energy to solve the problem and transform the world. That is needed today. I have taken much of his time. He has a list of questions. But dear friends, don't look that some Masiha will come, some incarnation will come, some charismatic leader will emerge in this country or any country in the world. Don't wait for a very strong, very vibrant global governance which will solve all the problems. Let us begin with us. Each one of you has that power. God can never send you without purpose. Find your purpose. The purpose can never be to destroy this world which you have got when you were born. When you leave the world, live with that purpose to make it a better place. I'm sure we can do it. It has been done in the past. When I was called to deliver my Nobel acceptance speech in 2014 in Oslo, I lost my papers. I'm not used to read. A story came to my mind. I will conclude with that. There was a heavy fire broken out in jungle. All animals, including the king of jungle, lion, were running out. They were rushing for a better, safer place, leaving the jungle. Then lion suddenly noticed there was a tiny hummingbird flying straight towards the fire. He shouted, "Oh, what are you doing? Committing suicide?" She said, "No, sir. I was born and grew up here. I am going to extinguish this fire." More surprisingly, he asked, "How come? Come back." She replied, "Sir, look at my beak. I am carrying a drop of water. I am carrying a drop of water. I am doing my bit," she said. "I am doing my bit. Rest is the legend. I am not a politician, not a leader. But I am here to remind you that there is a tiny hummingbird inside each one of you. My dear sisters, my dear brothers, there is a hummingbird inside each one of you. Whenever you feel to help others, when you feel to do your bit for the humanity, for your own nation, for your own neighborhood, it's because that hummingbird is asking you to do. I am here to awaken that hummingbird. Let us march. Let us march from darkness to light. Let us march from all evils and miseries and sufferings to nobility and peace. Let us march from mortality to divinity. let us march. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Kailash. I will invite now Kailash to sit a few more minutes with us. Thank you so much, Kailash. I was listening to you and I was thinking about action. I was thinking about this strong image you gave us to all of us. Where we are seeing Cristiano Ronaldo playing football. Where we are with our families, with our children, in the comfort of our homes, seeing the Portuguese team playing football. There are children in the other side of the world, slaves, being used to make these football balls. So, one of the things that I have the opportunity, and that's an amazing opportunity in these days to be with you and to hear about compassion, action. Also, your dream to end slavery in children. It's interesting also, your dear mate, Laureate, Martin Luther King. Once he said, I have a dream. He started with a dream, not with a plan. He started with action, not with an idea. He started with compassion, not only with empathy. Compassion is putting empathy in action. Can we say this?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, being with you, it's also very inspiring to all of us. It makes us remember that peace is not forever, that peace is not something that you can think it will be there always. And also to understand that in this global village, there are a lot of children, millions of children suffering. So, my first question is how everything started, Kailash, with this idea that every child matters. You started as an engineer, you explained a little bit about your background, but when did you feel this click that this will be your legacy to the world, your purpose, that you are going to touch so many hearts and so many people? How it started?
Thank you, Sergio. I never thought about legacy or a defined purpose.
It's me.
Yeah, it's me. I would say that if I was not doing this, what else I could think of? So the first spark might be the one which I just narrated, the cobbler boy who was found sitting in front of my school, and I could see my face on his face, or his face in my face, and that I could never forget, never, ever. It was so intense in me. But I didn't know what to do as a 5-6-year-old child. I kept on thinking and doing something. When I was 11-year-old, my best friend and a few more students dropped out from classroom, from school, because their parents could not afford textbooks and fees. So when I saw the empty seat, I started crying. I thought that my friend will come back. When I went back to his room, it was a rented room where he and his brother, who was a small things, seller for survival. They have already left that house because they could not afford the rent. So I was very, very disturbed, angry too. I tried to find some ideas out of anger, and when I am desperate or feel the pain of others, I never stop there, because there is a serious danger if you fell into the dark well of suffering of others, then you will suffer equally or even more, and then you will have a kind of fatigue, empathy fatigue, and sometimes feeling depressed or lost or defeated, anxiety, depression, etc., etc. So that is very important thing for the medical professionals, especially, that if you fell into that, then very difficult to come out. So empathy is sometimes dangerous. So somehow I learned to find some solution through action. So I asked one of my friends, who agreed for a crazy idea. We have rented a 4-wheel cart, which is normally used for selling the fruits by fruit vendors. So my friend was pulling the cart, and I was standing on it. And in our neighborhood, not the same neighborhood, otherwise my parent, my mother and others could have been very angry that I was begging something and doing a theater on the street. So we went to other neighborhoods and started asking the people that if you have used books in your house from your children, please put it on the cart. So many children and their parents and grandparents were bringing the books, and they put on the cart. And within few hours, we were able to collect almost 2,500 books in our small town. And then I asked my headmaster, who learned about this event. So he got involved, and he admired and encouraged me and my friend, another friend, not that friend who lost the school, and they joined. So within 10-15 days, over 10,000 books were collected. A book bank has been created so that all needy children can get the books for the whole year, and after the year, the headmaster will make sure that the books are returned in the safe conditions, so that the next year other children can use it. And that has become a normal thing, and I can say with pride that not a single poor child or needy child has to leave the school because of lack of books. That was something very new in my life to begin with. So I started thinking that this is something which I am born to do. But there was no one working on child slavery, child labor. These phrases were never heard anywhere. I have visited many countries later on, and including in late 90s in Portugal, where I met some of those children who were working in leather tanneries. And I saw their bodies, I saw their faces. I could not speak the language of Portuguese or English or Hindi, but I could feel the language of humanity. I could see that they are my children if they are working in these appalling conditions and living in these kind of health hazards, and also in the fields. So, but that was later on. Then finally I decided that I should give up this career in 1979, my teaching in the university. And then I started a magazine which was dedicated for the cause of most marginalized children, women, and other excluded sections of society, because they were never properly reported in the mainstream media. One day, a desperate father knocked on my door whose daughter was about to be sold to a brothel. His name was Basal Khan. The 15-year-old girl's name was Sabo, who was born and grew up in slavery at a brick kiln. When he was talking about it, I could feel that if she was my daughter or my sister, what would I do? That was in 1980, 24 years ago. Oh, 44 years ago. I decided and I told him that I'm not going to write, I'm going to rescue your daughter and all families. We did not have money because I gave up my job and moved from my small town in central India to Delhi. My wife belongs to Delhi. I requested her whether she can give her wedding ornaments so that we can arrange logistics. She was always in the forefront of the whole fight in all my life. So she immediately did it. Then we went there to rescue them with some friends. We were beaten up, we were thrown from there. This man, Basal Khan, was caught and we failed in the first effort. But I did not give up. Sergio, you were talking about your son who lost the volleyball match and he was crying. And you consoled him saying that there is nothing like failure or defeat, it's always learning. So I strongly believe that the solutions of every problem lie in the womb of the problem itself. We have to sometimes use our heart and brain together. We have to be patient enough. We have to be strategic in thinking, but we have to be courageous and have that courage to take risks. We have to have some ideas and a clear purpose and a clear goal, all kind of things. So solution will come today or tomorrow. So I never gave up that moment also. With the help of some friends in Delhi, we went to the High Court of Delhi, and with the judicial action, we were able to liberate this beautiful girl, 15-year-old Sabo, and 36 children, women and men from the clutches of slavery. This was the first documented incident where slave children have been freed with a civilian effort anywhere in the world, and that has become the part of the history of the entire humankind. I have learned that such kind of things happen, but physical action freeing some people from slavery had never happened before. And that has given me more clear purpose, later on a clear path, and then it was impossible for me to think back, because I could recall the moment that these girls and boys were freed, who were born in slavery, and they were walking on the streets of Delhi, the capital town. They were jumping on the streets. Cars were honking. People stopped there. They didn't know what is happening because the children have no idea. They have never seen cars and roads and buildings. And they were free. I have never comprehended and felt that and realized the true liberty, the freedom which I saw that day. And the mothers were hugging their children, and they were in tears, and tears were rolling down on the faces of those mothers, and the children were laughing and sometimes crying. I could feel, dear sisters, dear brothers, the glimpse of God, the divinity on the faces of those mothers, in their tears and their smile of joy. Nothing else. So since then, my colleagues, my organization, and I have physically liberated over 130 25,000 children and given back to their mother's lab and their father's lab, who lost all the hope they can ever hug their children back in their life. Each time when I free a child, I feel that I am freeing myself. I feel I am freeing myself. I don't know how many times people have witnessed or felt the God, but I can say with pride that I have felt that God at least 100,000 times in my life. Thank you.
You started also this new Indian law that created education as a right. Started with you. The right to all children to have access to education. That wasn't in their constitution. Things have changed thanks to you and all who support that initiative. How is now education in your country after the change that you started?
Yeah. Well, the first difficult challenge was that there was no provision of education as right in our constitution. So that was a big hurdle for many, many years. So we had to fight it out, and we have been able to build a nationwide movement which was supported by then Prime Minister and the leader of opposition, and slowly the whole nation was behind it. So we organized this long nationwide march in 2001 for constitutional amendment. So the constitution was finally amended in 1 year time, and then it was followed by the law which is known as Right to Education law. That was a big milestone, I would say, in our history in India. The good news is that millions of children, rather hundreds of millions of children, were able to go to school because they have legal right to go to school. And the policies were changed, the programs were changed, the new schemes have been introduced to enforce that law. So as a result, the literacy rate, the enrollment rate, the retention rate, everything has increased tremendously within 10-15 years of time. And it has become now a kind of social good in that way that poorest of the poor people in India are enthusiastic about education and enthusiastic about sending their children to school. There are other programs like midday meal program. There's a school feeding program which has been introduced many years ago, and that is continuing. So that has also encouraged many of the poor people to send their children to school. So education is something which could not be ignored by the society, whatever poor people or whatever caste or gender they belong to. So that is a great success story in India. And our government and governments before are continuing to prioritize education.
It's impressive because for us, education and all these things you are sharing with us, it seems like it didn't exist in our world. That we are in a different world, but this is also our world, this is also our children. And in your work and in your cause, there was a moment that everything changed, not the way you do things, not from the heart or the brain, but when you were recognized and you win the Nobel Peace Prize in 2014. We are celebrating 10 years, exactly 2024, that you win the Nobel Peace Prize. So, Kailash, what changed in your life after this recognition?
Yeah, there are some changes definitely. Like earlier, before 2014, usually I used to wear my clothes for the whole week. I was not very concerned about whether they are properly washed and cleaned and all this. I could manage. But now my wife, my children, and all my colleagues, they said, "Oh, sir, no, it's not possible. You have to wear the proper clothes. You have to be well dressed." Can you see that? How good are my clothes? They are all handmade. I don't use normally the clothes which are made by the big industrialists. The ordinary people who weave it, these are all handmade things. So I prefer, somehow influenced by Gandhian philosophy. So this is one change, that I wear clothes. But even then, there is always a fight between my wife and me. So yesterday you saw me wearing some dark kurta. This thing is called kurta, and this is pajama in Hindi. So pajama and kurta, the shirt, the long shirt. So I started this afternoon to wear that yesterday's kurta. My wife said, "No." And the Premaji came, "No, sir, you have to wear the new one." So this is the change which I see now. But
if you allow me, just let me say something to a Nobel Prize.
yeah.
I can explain you that you never win a fight with your wife. Don't try.
No. That is the fight in love.
Yeah.
Not in the brain. Joke. So anyway, so the thing is that, another thing that normally, or almost every time I flew in the aeroplane, in the economy class, sitting like that the whole night, and even flying from Delhi to America, reaching in the morning, and I used to have 3-4 meetings and have to speak and talk and convince politicians, even in the White House and other places, trying to get some kind of appointment, but the person in the last row, a clerk or a small officer, can just receive a memorandum from me. Now the things are changed. Like when you invited, you provided us the business class seat, so we can lie down. It is good. It's good because of my health. I have been attacked several times. I have my left foot broken. I have my right shoulder broken. I have my backbones. I was attacked, badly injured by the mafia who used to buy and sell girls and boys in lesser price than the animals, and they considered me as enemy. So when I used to sit for the whole night, 10, 12 hours, 15 hours, next morning I have to take some medicine and I have to go to my meetings. Now I can lie down. Also, I can go to the top leaders, meeting the presidents and prime ministers, kings, queens, and some of them are in our board. Some of the former prime ministers and president also sit on our board, and things like that are changed. So I'm surprised that how powerful are these 5 people sitting in the Nobel Committee. I am the same person. Nothing has changed in me. Some people thought that I will become a celebrity, and I have to be very careful while giving the selfies and so on and so forth. I said, I will demystify this stardom or celebrity-dom or whatever you call it in English. So nothing has changed. But the good thing is that people listen. People also in the United Nations, for example, I've been struggling for the inclusion of child slavery, child labor in the Sustainable Development Goals. and even before the Millennium Development Goals. But nobody paid any attention to it. In fact, we were campaigning and campaigning. But as soon as the Nobel Prize came, President Obama congratulated me as a fellow laureate. So I said, President, as a fellow laureate, I have something very important to talk to you personally. This telephone call for congratulations won't work. He laughed, and when he came to India, he invited me and Sumedha, my wife. So we met, him and Michelle. And then I said that I am asking you to help in inclusion of a new provision of eradication of child slavery, child labor in SDG. He was serious. So was the Prime Minister of Norway, the Prime Minister of Sweden, the President of France, Chancellor Angela Merkel, many countries, and Pope. I had developed a very good relation with the Pope, because he is the Pope of poor people, he is the Pope of children, and we enjoy good relations. We have conversations like this in the past. So I requested him also, and he joined this idea, and finally these things were incorporated in Sustainable Development Goals. And to surprise to many of you, all the SDGs were supposed to be accomplished by 2030, as you know, 2030. But the total eradication of all forms of child labor has to be accomplished by 2025. That was possible due to the Nobel Prize. So that, as they say, Nobel, you can knock and enter and meet the top leadership instead of just waiting for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years to meet the president of a country. So there are some changes. But in my life, I tell you, nothing, no change. I meet the people, I sit, and my doors were always open. Anytime, any children, any student, and the parents of children who wanted to meet me, they can meet anytime. So I don't care. I'm happy about it, and that is the power. That I enjoy, to be one of you. Mother Teresa was the first Indian, but not natural Indian, who got the Nobel Peace Prize. And I am the second one in that sense, but the first one who was born and grew up in India and worked in India and received the Peace Prize. So when I talked to the President of India, he was very emotional. He said that this is the first time when a prize, Nobel Prize, and particularly Peace Prize, would be kept in this country. The first one was the great poet Rabindranath Tagore. So Tagore got the first prize for literature, but that Nobel medal was stolen. And rest of the people did not remain Indian citizens. So they studied in India, but they were living somewhere else. Their medal is somewhere else. So my wife and my children and I thought that this medal does not belong to me, this prize. It belongs to every Indian. So I wrote a letter to President that I wanted to dedicate it for the people of the country. He was surprised because he checked, and it never happened in the history of Nobel Prizes. There was no mad person who can think of giving the Nobel Prize to the nation physically. So somehow he changed the protocol, and he was kind enough. So we went there and we have offered it to him, through him, to the nation, to the people of the nation. And so the prize is not with me. It is lying in the President of India's museum. So I cannot go and touch it. No one else can do it, but can see it when we visit the museum. And then I also made an announcement that all the money will go to the children and the people anywhere in the world. Not in my organization, though it was my personal money, but I said that I won't keep it for myself, I won't keep it for my organization. I wanted to give it to those who are much more struggling, needy. Perhaps my life will change after the Nobel Prize. So that money was also dedicated. So neither I have the medal, nor I have the money. So thank God that you can call me Nobel Laureate without the Nobel Prize and the money.
I didn't know that. Because if I know that before I invited you, you could told me that.
Yeah, no.
You not the Nobel, so.
No, I don't have Nobel, so you can call me brother.
Yeah.
Not a bad idea.
I can call
or
you
a friend.
Kailash. I can call
How many of you see a friend in me? How many of you see? Raise your hands. Friend? True?
Yeah. We see.
Little bit shy. Why are you shy? You are the vice president, and he says that one day you can become the president.
If he says, he's the Nobel, so.
It does not mean that you have to throw away the present president. He should complete his term, and then you can be the president. Don't be shy, huh?
Yeah. Nobel in Portuguese is nobre. Nobre. A noble person, that's what you are also. And we understand that you don't need a title to be noble, because you are noble in your values, in your character, and this is the best thing you can also say to the children of the world, that they can get to their future, they can achieve happiness following their own values, being noble with themselves. I think it's your example because, you know, it's amazing when I have the opportunity to be these days with you and to know that I was very concerned because it was raining, you know, and I was said to Kailash, look, today we talk about it's the others guys, they are the guilties, not we. It's about the others. So I explained that the English, they had a lot of influence in Porto. So they let us a lot of good things, but they also let us the English and London fog and weather. So it was, thank you, it was their fault. But it's interesting to see how different visions are important. And you say this is wonderful, it's raining. We have that beautiful picture in Rivera.
Yeah.
That picture will win a prize. Huh?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful picture with you in the rain. And I'd start to think it's true. We are blessed that we have this rain here. So this is also, when we're going to the end, we could be starting now because we have a lot of things to talk, but I think also this is opportunity to invite you again because now you have a lot of friends here. And this conference, you know, Kailash, this conference, we have a lot of different invited people here. You talked about the football, you know, the Portuguese, they love football. You know the name of our main Nobel football player, Ronaldo?
Ronaldo, yeah.
Okay, Ronaldo. They are going to play today. So my question is, we have a bishop here. We had an economist here. We had a scientist here. We have now a Nobel Prize, Peace Prize. So can you help us to win the Euro Cup, please? Can you call your friends and say, please let Portugal win? No, okay. I shouldn't have done that because I didn't really...
So I use your language that nobody is loser, nobody is winner.
Yeah.
It's always a learning.
Yeah, we learn. We learn. In life, we don't lose, we learn. So it's what's happening here. We are learning. That's just to finish. It's the last question, and then I believe that we will have more opportunities for us and to all of this. I must say that all of the Nobel Prizes that we saw on TV, and we have the opportunity to understand that you have this power to influence, peace is now an issue. Peace is not something that is for sure that we can say that it's there at your door or in your country or for instance, in Europe. So to finish, how do you see the future of peace in the world? This is my last question.
I am very optimistic. Though we are passing through very, very difficult time, but we believe that time does not stop. In Indian philosophy, we believe in infinity. Infinity of time, infinity of space. So when sometimes the space and time cross, that moment is this, for example. What has happened yesterday was another crossing of time and space, the time and place. So this is not going to stay forever, because the evolution of human mind, and now we see the evolution of human heart, the human consciousness, cannot go hand in hand with violence and wars, injustices, inequalities, disparities, discriminations which have been there forever. Science will help positively in it. The first phase of information technology or all kind of social media and modern sciences would be captured or are being monopolized by few people, few countries. It's true. But you cannot keep hold of this science, the modern science and technology and knowledge. The human wisdom will prevail over the knowledge, and the wisdom will lead towards more liberal attitude towards life and society. And that means acceptability, that means adaptability, that means tolerance, that means how to walk together, how to live together. We will move in that direction. So I am optimistic that there are people, you are sitting here, Sergio, you are talking about peace, you are concerned about it. 100, 200, 300 people who joined today, they have quest for peace. They have the conviction for humanity. They have some hope in the world. Why are you sitting and listening to me? Why did you raise your hands when I said, do you see a friend in me? All of you raise your hands. I'm not going to bring about miracle here because it's because of you. You have trust in the betterment of the world. And that's why I am confident that peace will prevail. The truth will prevail. The light will prevail. Hope will prevail over the despair. Darkness can never be there forever. I am not a priest, but this is my own experience of life. When I started fighting against child slavery almost half a century ago, nobody could believe. But I was confident that how slavery and civilization can go hand in hand. If people love their own biological children, why can't they care for other children? And we saw the difference in half a century. Today I am confident that we cannot live without genuine connections among each other. We cannot live without solving the problems of each other. We cannot live in isolation. We cannot live in loneliness. That's why the peace will prevail, compassion will prevail. So the path to peace does not pass through the parliaments only. It does not pass through the political parties' meetings. It does not pass through very, very knowledgeable academicians are sitting and talking about peace. It does not pass through the Nobel Laureate or Peace Laureate. The path to peace passes through your heart, through you. And I see that. I feel that. I'm not exaggerating it. I meet millions of people in the world. I worked with hundreds of millions of children in the world in all those years. And I know that what resides inside them, the cloud cannot overpower the light of sun, the rays of sun. You all live with that light. So the peace will prevail. And I invite you. I'm not looking for a second Nobel Peace Prize. But what I'm looking for, that at the age of 70, I started this new movement, Satyarthi Movement for Global Compassion. I've been successfully spearheading the worldwide movement, the Global March against child labor across 144 countries. I have been initiated and successfully led the movement called Global Campaign for Education that has brought the paradigm shift in the thinking and policy making on education sector globally. I was the initiator and leader of it for 12 years, 13 years. I have also launched the campaign which is successfully running, the Carpet Consumers Campaign and the Consumers Campaign, where we brought this whole idea of ethical consumerism as well as the corporate social responsibility over the last 40 years' time. 40 years, not a big time. Nobody was knowing and talking about the idea of corporate social responsibility or ethical consumerism. We ran this campaign. I came to this country for this campaign to tell consumers like you and you that please buy only those rugs which are guaranteed free of child labor from Pakistan, from India, and from Nepal. So today I have a strong belief that compassion is the answer. We cannot always live in the dark situations of problems and analysis of the problems and discussions on the problems and seminars and conferences of the global problems. It goes on and on and on. And the rhetoric solutions cannot solve, cannot bring about change. We have to rethink, we have to reinvigorate, we have to redesign a culture of problem solving, not the culture of problem analysis and problem knowledge. Culture of solutions will prevail, and the solution lies in peace. So I am confident that we shall overcome one day.
So there's hope. And there's hope because not only, as you said, we feel this here, but also because there's some action going on. There are a lot of people also thinking like you and like us. And I think this is the key message to all of us, that all of us, we can be noble. Kailash Satyarthi explained us that before you win his prize, before you win his Nobel Peace Prize, and we can feel this in this room, we can understand this with your presence, that before all of that, you were already a very noble person.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here with us today.
So you have heard this story of the hummingbird inside each one of us. with the little drop of water to extinguish the fire. This is a memento of my whole movement, and it's very special, and I'm very pleased and proud to give it to Brother Sergio for all the great work he's doing, and he is guided by that hummingbird inside him. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We also have something to give you in order to recognize all the gratitude for listening to you. So, please. Professor Taveira, quer acompanhar-nos, por favor? So some flowers, and also for your wife, and for the representation of the embassy.
किताब दे देना.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Book. Thank you. Thank you.
Jesus.